Jackson Fanwell, the Vuyatela Ranger and Tracker. So we'll try reposition. We'll just wait for Tax to finish moving before we move our vehicle as well. Generally try to keep only one vehicle moving at a time around sightings, just a little bit more sensitive to the animal. So a warm Safari Live welcome to Orlando, who's a new viewer. Orlando would like to know, how often does a leopard need to eat? Orlando, well, generally probably about once a week if it's a sizable carcass, but there are opportunities. They will catch rats, squirrels, any little thing when they have to get the opportunity to. But generally only once a week. Okay, looks like Tax is on his way. Cheers, Tax. We'll see you later. We're going to try and move around to the other side. It doesn't look like Mr. Q's going to move at all for the next while. Hello, mister. Back to sleep. Has he seen something in front of us there, have you? That. Oh, he's heavy eyelids already. Thought he might have heard something up ahead the way he shot up. Oh, here comes a yawn through the trees. A baby yawn. Oh, look at those eyes. They almost look like they stare straight through you. And flop. I thought he might roll over again. I had to go back to the exact same position we were earlier. Watch yourself there, Andrew. Back under the branch. You got? All good. That's the joys of these short wheelbase vehicles. We can sneak through gaps that those big other game drive vehicles wouldn't be able to. How's that, Andrew? You got his eyes? That's good. Yeah. Cool. He is hearing something behind us. Look at that. Look at that intent in his eyes. Maybe he heard something, and it's definitely not from us. I'm trying to see if there's something behind us, like an unsuspecting steenbok that might be inadvertently moving towards us here.
Just see him sitting up there.
You could be hearing impala. He's definitely heard something. And he's moving off behind me now. I'm going to have to turn the vehicle around. I think he might be hearing mother impala communicating with their babies, that sort of grunting. Oh, beautiful shot. Nice work, Andrew. With that lovely backlighting, I hope you guys are getting fantastic screenshots from this. Does he look like he's going to lie down right behind us? He does, doesn't he? Yeah, let's turn around. He did. He just moved slightly. I'm sure he heard something. I wonder what it was. You happy, Andrew?
Perfect.
Cool. So there we go. You can have a look at that pound sign above his left eye. I'm afraid I still don't see the stick man. There we go.
No, I know he's there, but I just want everybody to get a shot.
So Craig's joined us. Hello, Craigie.
I knew he was there.
So we can see there, if we have a look at his tummy, Andrew, and you can see he's not the most full, and he has eaten in the last while, and hopefully he'll be on the hunt this evening a bit later.
Make sure your door's locked. You don't want to come in.
So Darlene, who's joining us on the live safari from New Hampshire, has noticed that his front paws look bigger than his back paws, and she'd like to know, is there a reason for this? There is, Darlene. So those front paws, and obviously that whole front neck section, there's a lot more muscles in there, and they need that to be able to carry animals up trees, and also if they're fighting or pouncing, those front paws are what will grab into the flesh of the animal, those recurved claws coming out and sinking into them. And oh, look at that, the flies are after him.
Not be the type of good vision for 3 vehicles. But you will still be able to get vision from the road.
Excuse me, guys. You see that wonderfully dexterous little tip of that tail. So Dave Hill, who's a bit late jumping on the back of the vehicle and has just started watching, would like to know which leopard this is. Dave, it is the quarantine male leopard. GT Frog and Paul would like to know where this leopard normally hangs out. Well, at the moment he's been spending most of his time to the east of us, as far as I know, around Nkoro and Cheetah Plains. and coming into Torchwood occasionally, but this is the first time I've seen him on Djuma since August or September, I think was the last time I saw him. So really great to have him back. As I said, he is a dispersal male, so it's unlikely we're going to see too much of him in the future. It's even unusual that he's still hanging around in his dad's or possible dad's home range at this moment. And he does look quite comfortable. I wouldn't meander too far towards the Mawati if I was him. He might bump into Tingana, and that would be a very unpleasant experience for him. So while we sit here with this flat cat, let's go across to Commander Bond, who's at the hyena den, and it's active.
So, we've come to the hyena den, and while I was away, the two little ones, the two new ones, one of which is in a picture for you there, were brought across to this magnificent den. I think it's a spectacular den. Lovely scotia tree on it and a weeping boorbeam providing shade, lots of holes in it. And this is one of the new ones. This is one of the little ones who's at its new home. And that's the mother sitting there. I don't know where the other one is, but you can see the definite size difference between that one and the now 5 or 6 week old cub that certainly spends most of its time in the hole round to the right hand side of your screen. Where that one is, I'm not sure. So we've got those two, and then we've also got the 6-month-old, or close to 7 months now. She was born in May, or end of May, so let's give her June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Yes, almost 7 months old is this one here. And I'm just so excited. I came here hoping to see all 3 of the cubs together. That would be truly spectacular. So I think we'll spend a little bit of time here and just watch the antics of these ones. And what I would also like you all to do, please, is help me out. Let's try and sex them. I think that little one there, when I initially saw it, I thought it must be a male because there are 2 of them. And I think so at least one of them must be a male. But having looked at this one, let's look when it comes out and just check. When they extend the penis or the pseudo-penis, depending whether they're male or female, the end of it can be used to tell whether they're male or female. If it's pinched at the end, it's normally a male, and if it's just dead straight, then it's normally a female. Now, I think that looks pretty dead straight to me. We'll try and get a good view there. I'm looking with my binoculars. There we go. You see, I think that's a little female. So if that is a female, it's highly likely that this is a low-ranking female, the mother, and that's why the male has kind of been allowed to live in this little litter of 2. And the cub does look like it's got a bit of a sort of scarring on the face, much less so than the other one, the bigger one that's now 6 weeks old. And you'll find that's from the digging. They do an enormous amount of digging as soon as they're born. They're born with teeth, they're born with their eyes open, which is very unusual for a carnivore. And I think that's probably why there's so much sort of hair removal or hair loss on the face there. Very brave little thing, this. I'm just hoping that the other one is still alive and hasn't been lost somewhere. Such a sweet little thing. A whole new world of amazing discoveries. And to have brought this cub over here, the female would have had to carry them, and probably one at a time. So she'd have brought this one over, and I don't know if both of them have been seen here or not. So maybe you can let me know if both have been seen here or not. And if they are both here, then she would have brought them over one at a time. It's quite a distance. It's probably about 3 kilometers. Maybe not quite that, 2.5 kilometers. It's come across. So I wonder if this one hasn't either killed the other one or the other one has been abandoned. Oh, that's quite sad, actually. The leopard's breeding will only be affected probably by the number of lions that there are around the place. I really don't think the hyenas would affect it too much. And yeah, so the leopards are very good at staying secluded, staying secreted away, and I don't think the hyenas would make a tremendous difference to it. If the concentrations were very high, then yes, but the concentrations are not that high here, you know. We've just been very lucky because we've got them at this den, so it looks like there are hundreds of them all over the place. You might be able to hear the little one going. Not very happy at having the evening bath. So Lisa G and Barbara, we were just talking about the twin of this hyena. Barbara said you haven't seen them both together at the same time. Barbara, we did at the other den. We had them both there just briefly one evening, just before I went on my little holiday. We had them both at the other den. I believe they haven't been seen here, Lisa G. They haven't been both seen here. And I wonder if she didn't abandon one or something happened on the way over here. Perhaps that enormous conflict that resulted in that one being so badly injured had something to do with it. Who knows? It might well be worth going to check the other den to see if the other little one is there. But if the other little one is there, or was left there, or was killed there, I very much suspect it would have been eaten by now. Probably by other hyenas. It's very much a waste not, want not philosophy out here. I'm so looking forward to watching two of them grow. I was keeping an eye out on the other side of the den there for signs of the 6-week-old. I don't think she will come out unless her mother is here though. James Taylor, very nice suggestion from you that we get another 24-hour cam here at the hyena den. I agree with you, James, but for the fact that as soon as you put it up here, of course, they'll probably move dens. It would actually be a fairly simple process if we could find one that was totally solar powered. We could just stick it on a tree here in front of us. We might do that one day, James. So all is at peace now. Very lovely here at the hyena den, and you can see the little 7-month-old that will be waiting for food to be brought back. Now, I thought that this one, that one in picture now, was the offspring of the matriarch, the one with the big scar across her back. And I think her generally relaxed nature, the fact that she's on her own, is indicative of the fact that if not the matriarch, certainly a relatively high-ranking one. Brent reckons that the one with the scar across her back is perhaps not the matriarch. He says he's seen her dominated once or twice, so maybe not quite at the top of the hyena pile. But given the fact that she's only got one female cub, I think it's indicative that it might actually be that she is the matriarch. Might also be able to hear that harsh buzzing sound of the spider hunting wasp. And Vanessa G, yes, absolutely, we're definitely going to check the other hyena den at some stage. I think probably just before we close down tonight, I'll pop down there. We're not too far from there, like I say, about 2.5 kilometers, which in miles is about 1.8 miles. There's lots of sort of sitting around and waiting if you happen to be a carnivore. Wilma, in the Netherlands, we're looking at hyenas, which of course are more closely related to cats than they are to dogs. But you want to know why it is that wild dogs and domestic dogs lift their legs to pee? Is there some reason for that? Wilma, I can only think that it's got to do with practicality, you know. I think for a male dog to squat, you know, the angle of his equipment is such that if he squats too much, I think he'd probably pee on his own belly. And so when they get to that age, when all the equipment is in sort of full size, I think you'll find that lifting a leg is probably more comfortable. And I think that's probably the only reason they do it rather than squatting. And certainly even neutered dogs will lift their legs. I've heard of some that won't, but certainly, I mean, even neutered dogs will lift their legs. It is also probably got to do with territoriality and the fact that they do like to mark territory against posts. So you'll see a dog do it against a car tire or a tree or a fire hydrant or something like that, which they can't do, of course, if they are... In fact, this is probably a much better reason now that I think about it. They can't do that squatting, so they can't mark onto a bush or a tree or something like that if they squat. With a cat, however, the penis is recurved, it faces out backwards, and so a cat doesn't need to do that. They can just squirt out the back, and a dog can't do that. So that's probably exactly why it is. They lift their legs so that they can mark their territory more effectively. Never thought about that before. Thank you. And thanks, Mary, for your update. You say the last time the two cubs were seen together was at Philemon's Cutline Den, and that was on the 13th of December. So that would have been on Saturday, I think. No, on Sunday. So just prior to the move. You know what? They may have been attacked by something there that may have precipitated this move. You know, she may have picked up the remaining cub and run off with it. She's a particularly ropey-looking individual, this one, and I suspect has been the victim of a number of sort of hierarchical clashes. She's probably a very low-ranking female. There's another hyena there. It's just running off in front of us. Running around the den. Just gone off there, Tibbs. I'm sure part of the clan, though. So, Ellen, you want to know if we can go to the other den and see the younger mum with the other cub. Ellen, as far as I'm aware, all cubs are now at this den. There's a 6-month-old there who's just come into picture. There's that 3-week-old one there, which was a part of a twin. And then there was the other one, which is now 7 weeks old, with a slightly younger mother. And she's in the same den as this. I don't know of any other cubs, Ellen, unless I've missed something in the last 4 days. This is quite interesting. I'm just going to look around the other side quickly. While I do that, let's head across to Brent, see what he's got to show you at quarantine. I think he's still with that magnificent male left, and long may he hang around. We'll go around the other side. I'll keep you posted.
And as you can see in this blistering heat, this leopard has not moved an inch. So sounds like you guys were having fun at the hyena den with James, but we're back here with the quarantine male leopard. Hopefully he's going to get moving before it's dark. I'm hoping he might head to some of the mud wallows that aren't too far from here, and go have a drink. Now, normally, if the leopards are trained properly, on cue they stand up now and start walking, but obviously he missed the cue there. But as I said, I don't think he's going to move for at least another half an hour to 40 minutes. So now it's Andrew, test Andrew. Oh, it came right. There was a nice big dragonfly buzzing above him, and he happened to, Andrew's on the move again after the dragonfly. No, I can't see it, Andrew. He's too far, I think. Oh, there we go. Well done, Andrew. Oh, whoop. So can you believe dragonflies were one of the most dominant predators on the earth during the Triassic period? They used to be about the size of a leopard. Can you imagine that? They're incredibly strong and vicious little hunters, dragonflies. Okay, Andrew, enough with the dragonfly now. Okay, it's enough now. Back to the leopard.
Sorry about that.
There we go. You got to keep the cameraman stimulated, otherwise they get bored and start doing strange things. And we can see the actual underpad on that front foot there quite nicely. And that's what we track when we say we're tracking leopards. We find those footprints left by that beautiful underside. You can see he's got quite dusty feet. And you can see the long vibrissae, or whiskers. So Rose in Harrisburg would like to know, at what age do male leopards get the urge to mate? Well, Rose, it very much depends on the areas and densities of leopards, but generally they'll only start mating around 5 or 6 years old. So that's when they're old enough and big enough to sort of claim a territory. So he's still a couple of years off, probably 2 to 3 years off. So even though he's sexually mature and is able to mate, there's not a chance he'd be able to outcompete the dominant male leopards in the areas to mate. So he's unfortunately going to have to be a little bit frustrated for the next few years. Just that occasional ear twitch from the stable flies. So his mother is Karula, the queen of Djuma, our dominant female leopard in this area, and we've been seeing quite a bit of her recently. Apparently she is to the south of us at the moment, just south of Trindam, so maybe she'll make an appearance on tomorrow's sunrise safari. So if there are any new viewers out there, remember we are live. You are seeing this leopard at the same time as us. You're also able to ask us questions about what's going on, and you can do that by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can send me an email on questions@wildearth.tv. This is one of the leopards we've probably spent the most time with when I first started. We've had some incredible sightings with this particular male. I was with Brian and we saw him chase 2 male cheetah. That was fantastic. Andrew, what's your favorite quarantine sighting?
Wasn't it Quarantine who jumped up and tried to swipe the guinea fowl?
Yes, that was amazing sighting Andrew and I had of this leopard. We worked it out, the feet, but he jumped about 6 meters into the, almost 7 meters sort of vertically and about 4 meters up into the air, and actually swatted a guinea fowl out of the air, but by the time he got to ground, the guinea fowl had woken up and took off again. And yeah, I think that was also really, really great quarantine sighting. Obviously, he was a bit more active than he is right now. He's had a tough morning, got chased by baboons. So what we're looking for when he starts moving, you'll notice he might stretch a little bit, defecate, urinate, maybe start grooming a little bit, and that will be the signs that he's going to start moving. He is showing none of those signs at the moment. So while we bide our time for some motion, hopefully a little bit later, let's go back to James, who's at the hyena den, and the cub's back out.
Right, welcome back everyone. The hyena is back out of a different hole. Now, Ellen, I'm told that the cub that you were talking about, the 7-week-old one that was here with a much prettier mother, has not been seen since this lot moved into town. And I think that's really quite interesting. I also think it's quite sad because it tells me that perhaps that big fight had some kind of effect on it, and perhaps that little one that we spent so much time watching, especially during Big Cat Week, perhaps has met its end somehow. So very distressing that, and I wonder what's gone on here. That's just our VR rig starting up. I'm just going to click twice. That was 3 times. That's just to sync the sound. So now we're recording with 8 different cameras. No, we're not. I managed to make it not work. There we go. Now we are. So, very difficult to say what's going on. I think what we can say almost without a doubt is that the twin of this one that is here now is no longer. What's happened to him or her, I don't know. I think we can probably safely say that if this one has come out of this hole, now it means that there's a tunnel through the bottom of this termite mound, because she didn't go into this hole. She came out of this one, went into the other one. I think this is the one where the other little 7-week-old cub used to live. I think if she's not in there, it's very difficult to see how she can still be around. I'm not going to give up hope just yet. I think it's unlikely she's still alive. Unless, you know what I am going to do before the end of today. There's another den at Aubrey's Road. We'll go and check that one, and then we'll probably also go down to Philemon's Dip. Maybe there's just been a kind of swap around, who knows. So, Ellen, I think our best bet actually would be to go and check the one off Aubrey's Road, which is just to the northwest of us here, and see if we can't find some hyenas there. This den has provided us with the most incredible content and the most wonderful sort of experiences and learning opportunities to see these incredible predators applying their trade in their unique way. And while it is magnificent to see Quarantine and the lions and those iconic cats, they do an awful lot of lying about and doing nothing. That's why I really do enjoy seeing these hyenas. They always seem to be doing something. Now, just before we left you last time, I said that I saw another hyena running through the bush. Looked like a very fat one. Whether it had just got up and got a fright, or whether it had approached and then got a fright, I don't know. But it looked to be in pretty good condition. But it's too thick to kind of go driving through here to find out, I'm afraid. Now, Rabo and Vanessa, you may have been watching when Anne asked about elephants and can we tell the difference between individual elephants. Rabo and Vanessa, with hyenas, it's much easier. This one is very obvious, and I'll point out the obvious features. You say they all look the same. They don't. They're actually quite characteristic looking. Yes, they're not as obvious as the leopards, I don't think, but you can tell. This one has got blunt teeth. She's got a very kind of beaten up face. She's got very little spotting on the face. Her ears are fairly torn up. She's got a very kind of small, kind of notched nose. She's a scaffy looking hyena, this one. The matriarch, or the one I think is the matriarch, has got a very clear scar across her back. That makes her the most obvious. They do vary in size, so that's a good way of telling them apart. And then their spots, much like with the leopards, won't change. And I know some of you who've been watching for a long time, I know you picked out one of the ones that you named Bella, and you named her spot pattern quite nicely on some of her legs, and you reckon that was the one that was injured, I think. And so it is definitely possible, if you've got photographs of them, to identify hyenas. But even from their faces, they are quite individual looking. She's got very indistinct markings on her face, very kind of dark face, much darker than some. Incredibly powerful. Shall you say you can hear a lot of cub crying? You can't hear any cub crying through the microphones here. There's definitely no cub crying. It might be another sound that you're hearing. And you say, is it possible that the mother of the 6-week-old has moved down to the other den where the twins were born? It's possible, but you wouldn't hear anything from there. It's a long, long way away from there. And the microphones that we have on this vehicle are nowhere near powerful enough to pick that up. I'll run you through some of the sounds that you can hear now. You can hear a white-browed scrub robin there going. In the background, you might be able to hear the black cuckoo going. Ring-necked doves. Rattling testiculars. And cicadas. Always cicadas in summer. Bzzz. Wonderful, wonderful sound of the lazy summer. So having a good feed there, and while this might sound harsh, if there's one member of this clan who won't be sad to see the back end of the twin, it will be this particular cub, because it means there's obviously no fighting over food, and she gets to monopolize all feeding opportunities. So Sean and the directors, thank you directors and Sean, you chaps say that after the fight the mother and the 7-week-old were seen, sorry, that's terrible English, they were seen, but not since these ones moved here. So maybe she's just moved dens. I'm going to suggest that we move across to the Aubrey's Road den in about 5 minutes, just before it gets dark, and we'll go and see if there isn't anything there, and if there's nothing there, then we'll head straight down to Philemon's Dip and see what's happening that side. It's all rather fascinating. don't think there's a huge amount of action going on here now. I mean, it's wonderful to sit here, but I think before it gets dark, let's go and see if we can't find the others. So we'll send you across to Brent and quarantine, and I will go and see the other dens, and I'll keep you posted on what's going on there. See you just now.
As you can see, this leopard has not moved an inch. Again, he is lying in the exact same spot as he was when we were last here. The temperature is dropping quite nicely, so hopefully he will get mobile shortly. But as I said, I think it's still a while before he's going to get mobile. He looks very, very comfortable. It has been quite a hot day. I am hoping he gets moving before the end of the safari, but there is a possibility he might be snoozing. Or still snoozing. You can see, not even his tail is twitching, he's that fast asleep. So, when you were last with us, we're reminiscing about some of our favorite quarantine sightings, and Andrew's was when we had him jump and try grab a guinea fowl out of the air. I think one of mine was when he chased a cheetah, and the other one was when he stalked me. Popped up right next to me. We were very lucky, or when I first started here, we had those two young males, Quarantine and his brother Djuma, and they were around most days, so it made life nice and easy. Since they've dispersed, we've had to walk a little bit harder for our leopards. Wendy on YouTube says she remembers seeing Quarantine at the Bushbrae site. I was there. I got some fantastic photos of him actually lying on the serving table. So fast asleep, no one was around on the serving table. Concrete was a bit cooler than the bush around, so he decided to take advantage of that. That was a really fantastic sighting. That was right outside our camp as well. So Ashley's wondering about the black spots on his belly. As you can see, the rest of him has got rosettes, and she's wondering why those are black and the other ones aren't. Well, actually, it's an interesting question, because quite often coloration's got to do with heat displacing and also insect displacing, but I can't see that being valid for either of those reasons. And you can see they're quite solid compared to the rosettes. Also, the rosettes are lower down on his legs. So it could be just as they get to the extremities that starts happening. But I cannot give you a logical or scientific explanation for why he has black spots on his tummy. These lovely long vibrissae or whiskers. Now those we do have some scientific information on. And so if we look carefully at them, so obviously, like most whiskers or feelers and things like that, they are sensory organs. And I have noticed leopards, when they are hunting, as soon as they touch grass, it sort of just gives them an idea of where things are when they're completely, totally focused on things. So very, very sensitive. And he's got particularly nice long ones. Rianne, who's a new viewer, a big Safari Live welcome to Rianne. Rianne would like to know, is it hard to find leopards? Well, not if you ask Rianne, but for other people, yes. No, I'm only playing Rianne. They are one of the more difficult animals to find, especially at this time of the year. It is the most difficult time of the year to find leopards. The ground is very hard after a little bit of rain, and also there are baby impala everywhere. So they are snacking on baby impala, so they're not making big kills that they're going to be on in trees for a long time. So that makes them a lot more difficult to find at this time of the year. But fortunately, with a bit of tracking and a lot of luck, we do find leopards quite frequently. And the sun is dropped below the horizon already. Eric would like to know why leopards are solitary as opposed to living in prides like lions. Well, they've developed into a different evolutionary niche. So for a leopard, as a sort of not the biggest of the cats, if they started living in prides, they'd have to hunt more and hunt probably bigger things and put them in direct competition with an animal like a lion. So and also their coloring goes along with their evolutionary niche with that ambush sort of strategy. I mean, they will stalk up to within normally about 5 meters of prey before bursting through at about 24 meters per second. So also they can far more adaptable. So lions generally need to be either in sort of grasslands or savannas. Leopards can habitate anything through from rainforest to desert, and being that variable in your habitats, you don't want to be too specialized in your sort of family groupings. So leopards' main reason for being solitary is that they've got that little niche in that small to medium-sized antelope that isn't really taken by the cats. The lions, only the larger. Cheetah is in there, but they're bigger than cheetah. They can chase cheetah off kills. But mostly most important reason is the adaptable. Oh, I've gone absolutely wobble this evening. It is the adaptability they have in going through different habitats is the main reason that they don't hunt in prides. It doesn't look like he's going to move at all. Really hoping, I thought he would get moving at about half an hour before the end, but he hasn't shown any signs of that yet. Jess Top and Rainbow have noticed that this leopard is breathing very fast, and they're wondering why is that to keep him cool. That is one of the main reasons. He's probably digesting some meat as well, so that also creates a bit of extra heat. And unlike us, they're unable to sweat, so their only method of dispelling heat is by breathing fast or panting. So he's not that hot, even though he is breathing relatively quickly. Mouth is not open, he's not panting, so he's probably quite comfortable at the moment. So Jilly, who's in York in the United Kingdom, would would like to know, if we were on a walking safari and we came across a leopard, would it be safe? Leopard, most of the time, is 100% safe. Normally, they will move away without you even spotting them. But sometimes, if you're very lucky, like with this particular leopard, I've had some amazing sightings of them on foot. And I know so has Scott and Steph. But normally, they will slink away, and it is quite safe to go on a walking safari in an area where there's leopards. Excuse me. Oh, there was some movement. An head flick to try to get away from the flies. Those flies, obviously, they are very painful. As I said, we get bitten by them quite often as well. Not to the same degree as this poor fella. So Doug, who's in Connecticut, would like to know when we are likely to get the results of the DNA collection program, the Panthera program that we've been participating in. For those of you who don't know what that is, we've been collecting the scat of different leopards to do a paternal test. So obviously it's very easy to know who the mom is, but it's almost impossible without DNA to know who the father of these leopards are. So Doug's wondering when that test will, when the results will be out. Doug, I can't say you can hope for it to be out any time this year or next year. As with most scientific studies, it needs to go through lots and lots of checking and off to I think the different professors have to then check it again and whatnot. So I think it'll be a while. As soon as we do hear any word on any results, but I'd say I wouldn't expect them before not next year, the year after. You've got to remember, all those samples need to be collected. They're then got to go up to the University of Pretoria for DNA testing. So it is not just a pick up some poo and you find out who daddy is. It's quite a long, laborious process. Oh, it's a little stretch. So Heidi Ho in Burlington, North Carolina would like to know what would happen if Quarantine and his brother Djuma happened to cross paths. It'd be very interesting. I don't think they would fight. They would probably growl and snarl at each other a little bit. But it would be a very interesting thing to see. Lisa G is wondering, do female leopards have more white on the tips of their tails than males? No, Lisa, they have about the same. I'm going to try and change the angle a little bit. I feel like I've been sitting in the same place for an age. Try to see if we can have a look at his sleeping face. He might pop his head up as we move forward, just have a look at us. No, he didn't even open his eyes. That's how concerned he is with our presence. I'll just give you guys a little bit of a different angle to look at. Oh, and that's what he thinks of us now. Unfortunately, we're going to have to stay here in this spot for now. There are other vehicles around us. Peggy P is a bit confused. She says, is Mr. Q and Quarantine different leopards? No, Peggy, they are the same leopard. Mr. Q is just a nickname for Quarantine. Quarantine doesn't sound like the best name for a leopard. It sounds like he's about to be locked up for doing something naughty. And Peggy P also says one of Karula's litters lost their tail, had it bitten off. I'm afraid it's before my time. I have no idea about that, and it definitely wasn't this leopard. So Raybo would like to know, do those flies cause a disease or they're just an irritation? Those particular ones are quite an irritation. As far as my research goes, they don't hold any particular diseases, but they do cause the leopard's ears to be very tatty. There's one right on the tip of his ear now. So they are just sucking blood, and that's the easiest place for them to get to. There's not a lot of fur there. So that's why they're doing that. And while we sit with the sleepy kitty as his eyes closed, let's go across to James, who's got something a leopard might like to eat.
Well, look at that beautiful shot, everyone. We've come to the third hyena den, nothing at Aubrey's Road. It's the second one on Zoe's Road, nothing here, but beautiful elephants going past. And in the foreground was a steenbok, who for some reason, unbeknownst to it, or only known to it, it hasn't run away. Normally they run away as soon as you get anywhere near them. And that little one is at eye level. We're in a bit of a dip, and you can see that it's perfectly at eye level. He's really just watching the elephants behind him now. Just making sure that they don't pose any threat. She, sorry, is just watching them. It's a little steenbok ewe. And all is peace as the day starts to fade. Oh, look, there we go. Isn't that beautiful? I'm pretty sure these are the same elephants we saw earlier having their mud bath. They're sort of due north of where we last saw them. We'll just slowly cruise up onto the ridge crest here and get a nice view of them. I'm just going to start up this VR rig, and if you're wondering what that big bobble of cameras on the front is, it's called a VR rig, virtual reality, and it's sort of experimental stuff that we're trying. I have to sync it. Yeah, with my clicks. Right, now let's just go a little bit forward. Right, now this is a very clever question coming through from Ask Me, and you're watching the correct animals to have asked it. Ask Me. Ask Me, you want to know if there are any animals in the wild that will adopt babies that have lost their mothers, so they adopt orphans. Yes, there are. Elephants will do that. Wild dogs might do that. And lions, lionesses will adopt the cubs of other lionesses if they happen to be lactating at the same time, so, but not sort of by default. The best example of it is elephants. So in an elephant herd, if a cow loses its mother, they will absolutely adopt it. The herd will look after the youngster, but not, and Ask Me, I don't know if your question maybe is referring to other sort of species. So would I don't know, say a baboon adopt a monkey, or an elephant adopt a rhino baby? No, that absolutely wouldn't happen. It would only happen within the species. That said, there are incidents and interesting records, ask me, of there being these kind of strange incidents where a lioness has adopted an oryx, killed the mother, eaten it, and then adopted the baby oryx, and then same lioness chasing off other adult oryx and adopting or even kidnapping the babies and looking after them. So yes, and we've seen it with baboons as well. Lions, in fact, I think are the main culprits of that. It doesn't last. So eventually, I don't think there's any record of them raising a youngster to adulthood. But definitely there's something about that kind of maternal instinct that does take over. I don't think it lasts ever to adulthood, though. Very unusual, not common, but it does happen every so often. Nice question. Thank you for asking. Nothing at this hyena den here. This used to be a den just off to the left-hand side of me here. And so we're going to try once more at the Philemon's Dip. And then we're going to call it quits on hyena den finding. We did go to the Aubrey's Road one. Nothing there, I'm afraid. Right, we'll turn around here. Beautiful, calm, lovely evening. That big grey cloud is dissipated into the ether somewhere. And we now have these little pink wisps of what I think will probably be called Alto Sirius, if I'm not horribly mistaken. Isn't that stunning? Just beautiful. And Tibbs, if you tilt slightly up, slightly up, you'll just see the start of the waxing moon. There we go. Just starting to wax now. Beautiful. Oh, lovely, thank you. Right, one more den to check. Otherwise, we may have to go off on foot. I can see this den has also been checked. The Aubrey's Road one was checked before me. Nothing there. This one was definitely somebody drove down here, probably today or yesterday. So now we'll just go and check the Philemon's Dip one. Watch your heads, everyone. Getting quite dark, so if we do happen to find a hyena cupboard, one of these dens, we won't film it, I'm afraid. But we'll just have a quick look, then we'll move out. We don't want to shine a light on them. Righty, so we've come from the Aubrey's Road one, from where we last were, was only about probably 200 meters as the crow flies, so about 200 yards, 600 odd feet. Then this one is probably about, say, 600 or 500 meters, or 1,500 feet from the Philemon's Dip den. But these two are quite widely separated, so the Philemon's Dip and this one are quite widely separated from the other two. But it's definitely still the same clan. I just find the ability that we have here to check out. Oh, I've kicked my earpiece out. I wondered why I wasn't hearing anything from the final control. There we go, we'll plug back in again. It's just such a wonderful opportunity to be able to learn so much about the hyenas. Deer, I know there were elephants there at that hyena den, and you wonder if there wasn't any activity there because there were elephants. Yeah, if there'd been adults there, the adults probably would have just melted off into the bush and the youngsters would have gone inside. But I think the fact that there were so many zebra and impala around that area indicates to me, especially with little ones, indicates to me that the hyenas are not there. Also, no hyena tracks heading towards that den. So nice thought, dear. I don't think so, though. Should be at the den in about the next 3 minutes or so. Right, let's go back across to the leopard while I drive at high speed towards the other den, and if there's anything there I will tell you post haste. See you just now.
So welcome back, guys. As you can see, we are still with Q-Man, who has lifted his head. At least he's not a completely flat cat at the moment, so that is a positive. He seems to be listening to what I'm saying. And so great to catch up with this leopard again after so long of not seeing him. I think he is definitely the most relaxed of all the leopards we see. You can see those flies that he's trying to flick off. And you can see he's got quite a few ticks in his ears as well. You can see the little scabs behind his ears caused by those stable flies. Oh, looks like he's getting ready to go back to sleep. So if you look very carefully, and we're lucky we are able to get this close in, you can see the ticks in his ears, but you can also see other ticks like on the side of his face, so, and on his neck. So there we go, there's quite a few of them. There's actually lots and lots of ticks. So from a distance, a leopard looks like a very clean and pristine animal. But as I was saying earlier, he is full of ectoparasites, and those are only the ones we can see. You'd also have quite a fair number of fleas and other biting cohors. So my cameraman this evening is Andrew, who's also known as the drone commander. And Bob G is wondering, is the drone retired till next Big Cat Week or next TV shows? It is not. It'll be making an appearance on tomorrow's Sunrise Safari, Bob. So if you're ready for the drone, it'll be buzzing about tomorrow morning. And his eyelids seem to have got heavy again. Even though when you watch his ears, he is still listening to what's going around him. There we go, the yellow spotlight from Andrew. Give you a different tinge to your screenshots to our LED side lights. Paul is wondering whether Q and Anderson are in the same area, and he hopes not, because it wouldn't be good for this young male leopard. Paul, not to worry, they are not in the same area as far as I know. Anderson is well off to the west of us. So it's been a really hot day, and I think those baboons chasing him quite late in the morning, and the fact that those tracks we found were very fresh, so he has been moving during the heat of the day, and that's why he's resting now, waiting for darkness. before he continues on his merry way. So it's been an absolutely fantastic sunset safari, and thanks for joining us. We're not even going to waste time looking at me. Let's stick on this beautiful, beautiful leopard. And from James, who is also in agreement, even though he doesn't know that we'll be looking at the leopard rather than saying goodbye to him. So a very good goodbye from James and myself and from Andrew. And let's just keep quiet and look at the beautiful quarantine for the last few seconds of drive.